All right, it's week 9. So this week I'm selecting a new color palette. If you haven't heard me talk about this in the past, I typically switch my color palette up every 4 weeks. And the only reasoning I have for that is I like when I sit down to do my weekly journaling spread that I don't have to make the decision about the color palettes. I also know I don't want to stick with the exact same color palette the entire year. A, I don't want my markers to run out, and B, I like to have a little bit of variation. So I think if I were to start this again, I'd probably do one color palette for the month, but considering I started this in the middle of a month, it doesn't really align with that, but I'm okay with it. This week's spread, I always tend to start with something that I know. My coffee is a staple and it's routine for me. And I've started writing down like the little things I want to remember. Last week, I really made a conscious effort to start eating breakfast again. And that sounds so dumb, but I have a bad habit of skipping it. And I really do realize that if I eat breakfast, I feel better throughout the entire day, and I also make better food choices. So I feel the act of just simply writing that down and noting it to myself that I feel way better when I eat breakfast and I drink a little less coffee. I also, this week, the kids had a ton of activities as always, and I had a ton of meetings. And I've mentioned this before, but people are still really hard for me to draw. They don't come naturally. It takes me longer to figure out how to draw them to even make them look somewhat presentable. So on this week's spread, I have these 4 people that I'm drawing right here, but I also end up drawing a handful more people. So it typically takes me about an hour, but it took me a little longer than that today. And I think it's because of the people. They just slow me down and I overthink it. And I know each week I am reminded that I would benefit from spending some time figuring out how I want to draw faces. And it would make this process go a little bit faster. One of the other things that I was thinking as I was drawing this is it's funny, in the beginning of my weekly journaling, I almost felt like I had a hard time filling the page. And when you see me flip through it, you'll notice on those first spread, there was a lot more space between the elements. And I'm noticing that the further I get into journaling, the more crowded my pages are. And I don't know if it's because I want to make sure I document more, because I'm really valuing being able to look back and be like, oh, this is how the week went. Or if I also just find it really satisfying to fill the space in my sketchbook. So there's a little bit of both of that. I need to remind myself that it's okay if every single week doesn't fill the pages. It's actually probably arguably better, and I could start filling the pages instead of with the tasks that happened or the events that happened. I've been toying with the idea of starting to put on like my favorite things, or the foods I've been eating, or the shows I've been watching and the books I've been reading would be a fun addition to that as well. So the spread's a little long, and my explanation here is a little more long-winded than typical, but that's kind of what I thought today. And also, as I was drawing this, and I began to get a little stressed that it was taking longer and I had so much to do. And then I reminded myself that this really does feel like a form of meditation for me, and the benefits that I've gotten out of it are worth the time I'm putting into it. So anyway, I hope you're having a great week, and I'll see you next week.